Welcome, everybody, to our presentation from Terracon today regarding maximizing pavement performance, strategic management for long-term savings. I'm Greg Walterscheid, work within the facilities consulting service line of Terracon, and our presenter is Bill Collister, focuses on our pavement consulting practice. Just a couple of housekeeping. This presentation will be recorded and available along with the slides in the email link that will be sent out later. And we also, please feel free to log any questions under the Q&A icon. We'll be checking those throughout the presentation. So in the essence of time and in your schedules, we'll go ahead and get started. So with the Terracon, we always start our meetings with a safety moment. And today, since we have a variety of folks on that are not Terracon people, I just want to talk about a topic important to us, and that's avoiding using your cell phone while driving. I think we all see it out in the world, and I think that's one area we can all be safer with. And at Terracon, we do not allow using cell phone hands or hands-free while we're driving. And our folks drive a lot of miles nationally. And so it's a big part of our safety culture that we start with right there. So I offer to everybody to think about that and observe some folks that you think are driving poorly. And I bet you a lot of them are on the phone. Terracon is a large national engineering and consulting firm, and you see a lot of stats there, but we focus and deliver a lot of different services within the broad categories of facilities consulting, environmental consulting, geotechnical, and materials testing work nationally. One of the things that we really focus on, we've talked about safety, is that our first part of service is that when we're on your site, we are going to work safely. It's part of our culture, part of our mindset. And that's how we deliver our services safely. If we don't do that, then we failed initially. The nice thing about our services is we work throughout the life cycle, whether you're selecting a site for a new construction project, designing and building that project, constructing it through the entire QA process, quality assurance and design and testing, as well as managing an existing property or building. We work throughout the life cycle, providing support to your teams that are involved in those projects. The differentiator for Terracon is that we have a large presence. Our professionals are local and knowledgeable about your markets. But again, we have national coverage capabilities, and we utilize that for the benefit of our many clients. So thanks for that a moment to introduce you to Terracon. With that, I will turn it over to our presenter to talk about pavements. Bill, it's all yours.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate you all having me on today, and I'm excited to talk with the people on the call today about pavement consulting and how we can help you with a strategy for long-term savings and management of your pavement. Greg talked a little bit about our local presence, and that's within our pavement team nationally as well. So I want to introduce you to our team first. I'm part of this national team, but Andrea Blanchette, who is our national pavement consulting manager, she sits in our Minneapolis office and leads this team of pavement consulting engineers. And we have Tyler Means, who sits in our Cincinnati office, who's our Eastern U.S. lead. And then we have Jennifer Tran, who sits out of our Phoenix Avondale office. She is our Western U.S. lead. All of this team, plus the 60-plus pavement consulting engineers that we have on our team nationally, including our new TransTech pavement consulting team out of Austin, Texas. If anyone on the call is an F1 Formula Track aficionado, then you've seen the TransTech pavement in action with F1. But 60-plus pavement consulting engineers around the country to help you on projects. And at that local level, one of the things that we really want to focus on is that streamlined communication. Having that trusted partnership that Terracon provides all of our clients, provides that consistency across the board, no matter what we're doing, whether it's facility work, geotechnical work, environmental work, or the materials testing services. That streamlined communication is key, and we really put that into practice in our pavement consulting world, and we're going to talk a little bit today on how we do that. But that really starts with kind of the value, right? What is that single point of contact? What does that consistent value provide to you? And Jennifer Tran here, who I said was our Western US lead, she has really thinks that providing that seamless, streamlined communication to the client helps her to be a better client manager, helps her to provide better collaboration with their clients over multiple projects, and that's how we want to go forward with that. That value that we talk about for pavement consulting really helps us to start at the very beginning and asks you some questions of what does your pavement look like? What are you doing now to manage your pavement? What does your pain points look like? So take a second, think about that. If you are an asset manager, if you are a property manager, if you are a CFO, if you are an owner of properties, what are you doing now to manage your pavements? And we're going to talk a little bit about that. With Terracon, the support that we provide, we like to think of ourselves kind of your pavement doctor. There's lots of analogies that we can utilize to help you understand some of the things that we do for pavement, but going to the doctor is one of them. Changing your oil in your car is another one. But you do these things because you want to have a baseline. You want to have understanding where you go and who can help you diagnose the problems. So being that pavement doctor for you and helping you understand what that data looks like to provide the plan, the strategic plan, and the budget to help you administrate your contract work and perform better on-site pavement management for your sites is really what we want to talk about. So everything that we do for pavement and a lot of things, many things we do, and I should say many, but most things we do for Terracon has to do with sustainable items, right? So it's an important concept, an important conversation to have about pavement consulting, particularly when we're talking about the environmental components. Every time you replace your pavement, every time you make a repair to your pavement, every time you send somebody out to look at your pavement, you have an environmental impact for that pavement cost. So how can we help you minimize that environmental impact to the landfills, to the diesel, or to the asphalt that's being reclaimed or having to be recycled or having to be reutilized on your property? How do we help you with that environmental impact long-term strategy for your pavement? Social component is a little bit more interesting to think about. So there's an experience that I had this last couple of weeks. My son just graduated from college, and we wanted to go out and look at apartments with him. And we just moved him into a new apartment complex, but he actually chose an apartment complex that was smaller and didn't have as many amenities, but the property was maintained much nicer, including the pavement. And he actually made a comment to me as we were pulling in and leaving the previous site, which actually had really bad pavement, and you could tell that they just weren't really maintaining their site very well. So that social component is something that says we have a better product here. And it says that because your pavement's being maintained very well, or your landscaping, or your roofs, or your building and your facades, the things that Terracon can help you with, helps you with that social component in the market. You want to have a better product visually than your competitors in the market, so we can help you with that on the pavement side. And then certainly the last thing on the sustainability is the economic side, really understanding how do we reduce your pavement life cycle costs? How do we help you take those long-term costs, put them into a plan so that you're not reacting? We'll talk about, the bids that you get if you're a manager out there or an asset manager and you've had to get bids from contractors. How many times have you gotten a bid from contractor 1 here and contractor 2 here and contractor 3 in the middle? You just don't know where to start. That's kind of what we're talking about from that economic impact.
Bill, to your point, the aesthetics of pavement are becoming more of a branding issue with these clients, right? It's also almost being labeled as, hey, this is part of our imaging and branding. And so if you start talking about pavements as a marketing and branding feature, you've made a big step as an asset manager, right? But it is becoming more important. And you and I both had conversations with clients that realize that that's a big part of their ability to attract occupants and renters and new office leaseholders, things of that nature. So great point.
Yeah, it's becoming more impactful for those conversations, and the value that is visually given from the aesthetics of the property, and pavement is a huge part of that. And certainly from a saving money standpoint, Greg, the long-term cost strategy for pavement management, pavement is typically in the top 5 assets to be managed on a site: roofs, mechanicals, windows, pavement. If many people on the call today had to go and replace all their pavements today, it would be millions of dollars to replace those pavement. Not just the management of it, or not just the crack sealing, or not just the long-term or short-term maintenance of it. But we want to help you save money by figuring out some strategies that will help you efficiently and effectively utilize the contractors on your site that you have those relationships with. And we want you to utilize those relationships. Remember, we're just your consultant. We want to be your trusted advisor to help you in this process save money. And part of that really is understanding what's the impact, right? If everybody had to close their eyes and think about that impact of pavement, you're driving into your site and all of a sudden your car hits a pothole. Golly, that's frustrating, right? Or I was meeting with a client 2 weeks ago, and one of their impetuses of doing great pavement management is they want Mrs. Jones to be able to wheel her eggs in their carton out of their front of their store to their car without the eggs breaking. That's the impact, the operational risk. How does your pavement affect your revenue, impact your user safety on your site? So those are some of the things that we talk about when we're starting those progression conversations with clients about pavement consulting. That's where it's really got to start. And in those conversations, we talk about just general things. Do you have a plan? How do you manage your pavements now? What does that look like for you? If you had to put a perfect plan in place, what would that be for you? How does that help your budgeting? Is your expense a capital expense, or is it a maintenance expense? Where does that line start and stop? Because if it's a capital expense, typically, that's a much larger expense, but a lot of the maintenance repairs costs gets passed along in CAM fees or other fees for properties. And you want to have that social component or that savings component for your tenants to be able to reduce those costs for them long-term. And we can help with that strategy. Design, do you have a team in place that can help you from soup to nuts, can go from the assessment, help you with the data analytics at the very beginning, go all the way through the site assessment and evaluation, understanding what you have on site currently, to helping you with the design or the specifications needed for the property and the pavement repairs, onto the testing services that need to happen during the construction process, like material testing, slump testing, thickness testing, GPR testing, soil testing, understanding what your soils look like underneath there so you can have better pavement. And then on to the construction management piece. Greg and his team with the facilities team are really good at doing that construction management piece, and it's how we play together as a team at Terracon. And then certainly the operations, right? How does negative pavement impact your site, right? Whether it's the employee that's got to come in every day and deal with it, whether it's the lady that's walking in wearing the nice heels shoes that break off because she stepped in a crack, right? Potholes that break axles, the safety issues. There's probably people that have had to deal with some attorneys in the past. We won't talk about that. But what we want to talk about is that strategy. Are you a client A that just builds it and forgets it? 20 years later, you come back and you replace it. You spend $1.9 million over 20 years to build it and replace it. Or do you want to be client B who builds it and then strategically has a plan, working with a client like Terracon or a partner like Terracon to help you put those strategies in place to do the strategic things, the taking your vitamins, the changing your oils, the doing the testing that needs to get done over the period of the years to not only save you money, but also extend the life of that pavement. Because by extending it from 20 to 30 years, we're not just talking about the $600,000 saved. We're talking about adding another 10 years of life to your pavement that you're not having to put onto a capital expenditure. And I think thinking through client B strategy is really an impactful way to think about your pavement. And we really encourage you to do that. So we mentioned about Jennifer Tran earlier, who's our Western U.S. lead out in the Avondale, Phoenix, Arizona area. She has a great client that she's been working with for the last 10 plus years, and Terracon has been working with for more than 25 years on just this pavement consulting practices. 15 million square feet, 32 campuses, 16 facility managers. How many of you out there think that all of those facility managers manage their pavement the exact same way? Probably not everyone. I'm sure there's a few, but probably not everyone. They all have different relationships. They all have different strategies. They all have different budgets, maybe. So what does it look like to do that? And that's how and why they hired Terracon to be their partner and to be their pavement consulting engineer to put together the strategies of knowing when to crack seal or when to do the specific surface treatments or when to do specific replacements, mill and overlays, so that they don't have costly repairs that they can't control because now they're reacting to their pavement, not acting proactively in that management. So I want to tell you kind of how this story started with Maricopa. So they decided when they hired Terracon, we want to maintain our pavement at a PCI score, which stands for Pavement Condition Index score, which is brought about by a true ASTM standard, not a Terracon standard, not a guessing standard, not a subjective standard, but a very objective standard that says from 0 to 100, here's your pavement score. And I'll show you what that looks like graphically in a second. But they said they want to start at a 70. And that's what we've done over the last 25 years for them. We've been able to maintain their pavement over a 70 score. Now, they had a little bit of dip here in 2005 because they bought some new buildings, and then they quickly rectified those and brought that PCI score back up to where it needed to be. But if they had done nothing, their pavement would have declined over that 25 years and had to have replaced that pavement because it had dropped down to a completely almost failed position. And instead of letting it fail, instead of by maintaining it, they only have spent $11 million maintaining their pavement, doing strategic things, knowing when to take action, utilizing their contractors efficiently and effectively throughout the life cycle of their pavement to maintain that PCI score of that orange line above a 70. But if they had done nothing, the estimated cost of repair of all that pavement would have been north of $48 million. So ask yourself this question: would you rather be the $11 million spend or the $48 million spend? I think I can answer that for you. But I think that's pretty impactful when you're talking about strategy, even with the cost of having a partner like Terracon over 25 years to maintain that strategy and to tell you over the life cycle of what that pavement, how that pavement is going to degrade. This is a little graph that comes out of a report that says, okay, we break your pavement down by section. We give that score in 2023 a PCI score. And over the next 5 years, here's how your pavement's going to degrade. We utilize Paver, which is a nationally known industry degradation scoring program that once we do all of our data collection, once we run it all through our AI unique programming, we get out all the quantities. We put those quantities into this Paver system. It gives us the PCI score and what the degradation looks like over the next 5 years. By managing the pavement this way for Maricopa County, we've been able to save them over $35 million over the last 25 years. 1,600% return on investment. So let's just let that sink in for a second. What does it look like for you and your properties? Whether you own one property that's 20 spaces, or whether you're a manager, an asset manager out there that has hundreds or thousands of sites, and you need to have a better plan, or you want to have a better plan to manage your pavements long term. What does that look like for you? Greg talked a little bit about early, and I'm not sure, Greg, if there's any questions so far. I'm going to stop and take a drink for a second.
Yep. No questions, but when you talk about the return on investment, I think that's one of the challenges is for clients is there's a lot of big numbers we're throwing around. What does that mean in their day-to-day asset management and the opportunity to create and maintain a program of this nature? Because it can't be just a one-time event, right? To really do asset management, you have to buy in, and it's a multi-year because the value is seen down the road, right? It's not immediate return, right, Bill?
That's right. Yeah, you don't see the benefits of changing your oil every 5,000 miles at that 5,000 mark point, right? Because all it is that's an expense at that point. And some people just think of it that way. But by changing your oil or having a better strategy of using a better oil, you're able to extend the life of that engine. To your point of it, it is a long-term strategy. This is not a strategy that can be fixed in 2 or 3 years. So if you are an asset manager or property manager out there that has flipped properties on a regular basis, we can still help you with those repair strategies. We can still help you with the designs or the specifications and the contractor bidding process or the construction management or the material testing, all of the services, but you won't necessarily get the full benefit that we talk about of our asset management, long-term pavement management program. Hopefully that makes sense to everyone there. If you've got any questions on that, we'd love to have a conversation with you about this and help you understand a little bit fully further about what that looks like for you and your properties. But in the light of that life cycle management, right, that long-term life cycle management, Greg talked about at the very beginning that we as Terracon, we really focus on that project life cycle. And in that managed asset position, we really look at functioning in that pavement life cycle as well. We want you to understand, what does it look like to have operational efficiency or safety related items, or where do you get that great appearance from, and how do you produce those savings on sites to be able to do that? We look at pavement really in 4 ways. And in those 4 ways, we look at this. Oops, sorry. We look at this in 4 ways. Pavement assessment is where it always starts. We have to know what's happening on your pavement today, right? I'm going to talk a little bit more about that pavement assessment because there's some new technology out there. Not that there's not new technology in the subsurface or designs or pavement management, but really there's some really unique pavement asset management tools that we can help support you with. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a second. But we start with doing an assessment. Once we know what that surface of the pavement looks like, now we know where, instead of just randomly plugging holes in your pavement to understand what your soils look like, or to understand what your pavement thickness looks like. I'm not going to ask by raise of hands, but how many of you out there have done a pavement replacement project where your contractor was going to start doing a mill and overlay? That's what they suggested. Started the mill and overlay process, realized pretty quickly that you didn't have the pavement thickness to do a mill and overlay, and everything had to be replaced. So they came back to you and said, oh, we got to give you a change order because we didn't do any subsurface evaluations ahead of time. And now what you thought was going to cost you X dollars is going to cost you 10X dollars. Hopefully there's nobody out there that's had that, but we've seen those scenarios, and that's where we can help you with the subsurface evaluations. Once we know what you have, both at the surface and below the surface, we can help then design the construction services, the replacement, the repair strategies for you, helping with the specifications, the bid packages, the design services, the drawings that potentially may need to be done for the municipality that you're in. So that long term, we can have you be a client B and have better pavement management, knowing what that plan and strategy looks like. But let me translate this into kind of what that life cycle looks like, right? So we start with this pavement assessment. That's where we do all the inventory controlling, the data collection. There are companies out there that do just that. They do the data analysis. They'll collect data for you, but then they give it back to you and they say, all right, here's all your data. Good luck. Terracon is much more than that. We can help you understand what that data management looks like and help analyze that data so that in that pavement assessment, we understand where we need to be going with that process. Where do you need to be looking on the site for that? And again, I'm going to go over pavement assessment. Once we understand where it's happening on your surface, now we start knowing where to look at the subsurface evaluations, because we want to start understanding what that detailed site evaluation looks like so that we can place the right maintenance or repair strategies in place. Can you do a full mill and overlay, or do you have to do a full depth reclamation because you don't have enough pavement thickness? Or is your pavement alligator cracking and you've got some subsurface soil issues that have to be corrected in that area versus just doing a seal coat over the top of that. So we want to understand what that subsurface looks like. Then we take that and place that into the design and construction phase of what we're talking about doing, right? That's where we're helping you with those design documents and the bidding process. You may have plenty of people on your staff to be able to help with those services, so that may not be something you need from us, but there's plenty of people out there on the call today that may need those services, that would love to have somebody to help them, to be their partner, to help with the design in a single source environment, instead of having to deal with a data collection company and then a design company and then somebody that can help with some maintenance repair strategies. We can help with all of that. But once we go through that design and construction services, that's where then we help with the pavement management plan. This is where we put together what your actions and budgets need to be for the next 5 years. Now, clients ask all the time, well, why can't we go to 20 or 30 years? Because the degradation curve starts getting a little bit fuzzy after 5 years. That's a known factor in the paver world. I talked about that program earlier. That's why we limit it to about 5 years. 3 to 5 years is what we really like to work with clients on that true pavement management program. It tells you when you need to do that next network level inspection or project level inspection and what those next steps of analysis needs to be, right? And that analysis is, I need to change my oil. I need to change my tires. I need to get my transmission fluid fixed, right? I need to get an alignment done. Those are the strategies that you're going to do and you're going to place on your car like you do on your pavement to make sure long-term management happens on your pavement. So I talked a little bit earlier about this assessment technology. And assessment technology has been the most changed technology over the last few years. So I want to really dive into this a little bit today, a little bit more strategy talk than on some of the other components. But this is just the starting point of where we want to go. Before we came up with all this cool technology a few years ago, everyone used to go out and do just boots on the ground inspections. Nothing wrong with this. It's a great way to do it. ASTM, the 6433 that we follow, says 10, maximum 25% of the site needs to be assessed to be able to create that PCI scoring for your site. So that's what the boots on the ground. And this is the report type that you would get back, whether it's Terracon or other consultants, to help you with that boots on the ground analysis. But why would you go to your dermatologist, your doctor, have them look at your hand and say, yep, your hand looks good, so your whole body must be good? So Terracon has a product called PavAI, and we're going to talk a little about that and how that can help you. But as we get into this consultation that we do for you, it doesn't have to be subjective, where person A says, yeah, that degradation down there looks pretty severe, but I think it's really low severity damage. It's not that bad. Or Terracon, we're going to tell you, based upon the PCI score 56, the damage is worsened, area needs to be reconstructed. We want to give you the information, the data, the hard information to help you make the decisions to be able to do that. Today, we use advanced scanning technology, which is repeatable, it's objective, and if I was doing a one-on-one presentation with you all, I have 2 videos that really kind of identify what subjective and objective looks like. And if you've seen those with me, you know what I'm talking about. But this is an objective scanning technology, a repeatable scanning technology. so that year after year, every 5 years, you're getting the information scanned at knowing that the information is the same, versus having Bill go out to your site today and Greg going out in 3 years and Eve going out in 5 years, all giving you their subjective approach to what your pavement looks like today. That's really where technology is taking us. And that's what we want you to be thinking about when you're talking about how to integrate a pavement strategy program on your projects. How do we use this to measure distresses? We take video assessments, we run it through our AI model, and it calculates the quantity of distresses on the program for us. Spending the last few years planning this program, developing this program, having the only patented AI program in the market for pavement distress analysis, today's methodologies are much better than they were even 5 years ago. So here's an example. We use either car-mounted high-definition video cameras, or we are now into the drone capacities. We're looking at other technologies as well. We take that imaging, we place it into our AI technology by creating orthomosaic imaging. By that means stitching all those pictures together, all those images together, and allowing the AI model to create for you a big picture that you can see down to a 2mm resolution, and then help you understand where your degradation is happening on your pavement. And what you get back is a heat map like this. Now, I talked earlier about that ASTM 6433, which is that PCI scoring. And this is kind of what that scale looks like, right? From 0 to 100. Remember that score of 70 with Maricopa Community College, where they wanted to maintain their PCI score at a 70, meaning that that had good pavement on their sites, not just fair, but good. In this preventative maintenance strategy, your cost of repairs are pennies on the dollar. Rehabilitation, it becomes dollars on the dollars. In reconstruction, it becomes tens of dollars on the dollars. So from a budgeting standpoint, you have the ability to say, where do I, on my singular property or on my thousands of properties, hundreds of properties, my portfolio of properties, want to be able to keep my pavement? Sometimes if you're an asset manager or a third-party manager and you've got different clients, they want to have different budgets. So we want to help you understand what that looks like so we can minimize your effort to managing all of those pavements across that portfolio. But when this heat map comes back to you based upon the PCI scoring, now this tells us where we need to be doing the subsurface evaluations. We know that the pavement is getting bad, very poor or serious in this red area, but in the green area, we've got good pavement or very good pavement. So we're going to focus on these areas first. We're not going to come up with a strategy for you that says, all right, spend all your money replacing all the very bad, poor, serious, failed stuff first. We want you to have the best bang for the buck. We want you to be able to replace the pavement or to fix the pavement that cost you pennies on the dollar versus dollars on the dollar or tens of dollars on the dollar, so that you get a longer life out of that pavement and you can start strategically placing the dollars where they need to be. That's how we've been able to save millions of dollars for clients, large logistics clients, commercial clients, healthcare clients, education clients like Maricopa Community College over the years in that pavement management program. All of this new assessment data, right, comes back in a report that many of you are used to getting, a paper report emailed to you that says, here's what all my stuff looks like. Terracon's turned the corner a little bit on that. We're still going to email you reports, but we want to provide all of our data back to you in a client deliverable platform, and we call it Compass. So in Compass, this gives you real-time tracking of information and data. It helps you understand where all your reports are at, lets you see all the pictures, lets you see all the heat maps, lets you see the orthomosaics down to that 2mm resolution. This Compass platform really takes about 30 minutes to walk through, so that's not why I'm going through it in depth today, but we would love to show you what Compass looks like in real time. So reach out to us and let us have the opportunity to show you what Compass looks like and how you can benefit from having the reports at hand 24/7 without a subscription service, without fees. It's something that we provide to you, all of our clients, for deliverables. But let me show you what that looks like for pavement. So here's a little snapshot of what a pavement evaluation service looks like. So again, we've done the assessment. We've run it through our AI model. We've come back with the heat map for the PCI scoring. You can see that same PCI scoring information here. And then you see what the heat map looks like for this property. Now, what I want to point out to you is that if you are a portfolio manager, an asset manager, you're a property manager, but you have more than one property with an owner, we can place all that information on the same page for you. You can see all the reports under this final report section right here. Click on them. You can collaborate. You can read them. You can print them. You can download them directly from there. But you can also zoom from property to property just by clicking the Zoom to button. You don't have to go in, go out, go in, go out. You don't have to change directions. You don't have to go to the next property by clicking something. You just zoom right to it. It takes you right to that information. Really a unique function for Terracon's Compass portfolio to allow you to have the data that you need to see the pavement assessments. So kind of a cool technology. But I really want to go back and really finish off by talking about, we talked about that project life cycle, right? So no matter where you sit in that project life cycle, whether you're designing it, there are pavement assessment services, pavement construction services, pavement testing services that we can support you in that designing. If you're building a brand new building, not to mention all the facilities, environmental and geotechnical services that we can provide in that same category. If you're constructing it, we want to help you with the testing. There are specific pavement testing services. If you want to know and guarantee thickness of your pavement, we have the ability to understand that. And then the managed services, where we talked about how do we manage your pavements by starting with an inventory and helping you understand what that looks like from a data standpoint, all the way through providing you the correct maintenance repair strategies, detailed site evaluation by being able to in-house do all of the corings, the borings, the lab analysis of the soils below grade, to then help translate that information into the correct design document, specifications. Maybe you want to change the specification for that site because your use of site has changed. You've gone from a light duty concrete to a heavy duty concrete. How do we help you in that strategy? We start at the analysis. Look at their maintenance strategies. We look at the soils. Can you have heavy duty without damaging it faster? And then helping you with that construction testing to provide you that long-term pavement management plan and help you analysis of that pavement long-term. So hopefully today you've got a little bit of a snapshot of what pavement consulting looks like for Terracon and how we can integrate our services throughout the life cycle of your property and talk about those services throughout the life cycle of pavement. So thanks for having me on today. We're excited about this opportunity to be talking to you. If you have specific questions, please put them in the Q&A chat. I've got my email address up here, my office number's up here, Greg's information's up here. Feel free to reach out to us. Let us help you with that process of pavement consulting, pavement management, so that you can utilize your contractors more efficiently, effectively. You can help with your budgeting actions and planning. Many of you are in the budgeting phase for 26 now, so it's important to start talking about those. What does next year's cost look like? And help you have better long-term pavement management that are socially responsible, environmentally responsible, and certainly economically responsible for your properties. Thanks again for having me on today. Greg, any final questions from the field out there?
None posted, but as always, a question is, how does somebody get started? What questions will you ask that maybe they can be prepared for and say, okay, if I'm looking to get some outside assistance, what do I need to be ready to provide them? As I've got one property or 100 properties, whatever the case may be. What things will you be asking to get them to think about?
Yeah, so great question. We really like to keep it extremely simple. We want to understand what your goals are. So we're going to start asking questions like, how are you doing pavement now? We want to understand what your program looks like. We don't want to completely overturn the apple cart, because when you're trying to sell this and we help you sell this to your CFO or C-suite individuals or your owners, we want this to be simple for them too, and an understanding of this program. So how are you doing it now? We want to just have addresses. We just need to look at the addresses so that we can start looking at those properties with you to identify what your acreages are of the pavement, what types of pavement you have on there. Then we start asking questions like, what's your use look like? What are you trying to do with this pavement? Are you changing use of this pavement? Do your tenants need better pavement strategies because they're bringing in heavier trucks, or they've got more cars coming in than this pavement is really designed for? We want to understand that. And once we understand that strategy, then we start implementing that program with you and understanding what that looks like long term for you. So great question, Greg. Thank you for asking that.
All right, everybody. I think that if no further questions, that wraps us up for today. We sure appreciate your attendance, and just want to remind you that you will get an email with a link to the presentation. We will be having some more of these in the near term, so do look out for some other educational webinars. If you have topics you'd like to get us to talk about, please submit those. We have lots of experts in lots of different subjects, and always glad to educate, because we are a resource for our clients and building owners. So with that, we sure appreciate it. Y'all go out and have a safe day.